Good morning, guys. How are you all doing today? I'm in the woods with Coco. I'm talking about a subject that I'm so interested in. I have spoken about it on the vlog before, but not for quite a few years. It was early on when I started my channel, and that is dealing with competition nerves and kind of your equestrian mindset. Now, I'm relating this to kind of actual competing, but actually it fits in perfectly if you are just dealing with nerves for perhaps going cross-country schooling for the first time, or going for a gallop for the first time, or having your first ever canter. It all fits in with that as well, but I'm specifically relating it to equestrian competition. Now, I find it a fascinating topic because it is something I have been plagued with for most of my life. I'm naturally someone that gets very nervous, and when it comes to my sport, I have struggled a lot over the years with the nerves just completely consuming me, just eating me up really. And I found it took away from a lot of the enjoyment of my sport, and at times just got me thinking, why am I doing this? Because the feeling nerves gave me was so horrible that I just thought it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. And I've always been interested about those people that compete at the top in our sport. How do they deal with the pressure? And probably what makes them top of our sport is that they can deal with the pressure, and when the spotlight's on them, they perform and they deliver the results. That's why they're at the top. But I've read so many sports psychology books. If I was brainy, I'd go and be a sports psychologist, because like I say, I find it super interesting. I've had sports psychology, I've had sports hypnotherapy, and I have done a lot of work on myself to try and improve how my nerves affect me. And I think I've got some good techniques down now that really will help. So for anyone out there that's struggling with their nerves, this is for you. I hope it helps. It's one of those things that you have to continually work on. It's like fitness. You can't just do it for a short amount of time and expect to stay fit. You have to work on your mindset. For some people, they're really lucky. They don't have to. They're naturally laid back, or they just don't get affected by nerves. For others, like me, you have to keep working on it. And the more effort you put in, the better the results are. So first up, we're starting with a nice, simple, but very important one, and that is breathing. Good breathing. Hopefully we're all breathing. There's 3 areas where I think breathing can really help. So easing the nerves, your focus, and your overall performance. So I reckon this is the time when the nerves really kick in, when you're sat in your car or your lorry. It's just before you're about to start tacking up your horse, and the nerves kick in and you feel it in the pit of your stomach. Maybe you feel a bit clammy, maybe your heart rate's increased, maybe you're talking a lot, or maybe you're not talking at all. Maybe you're just thinking, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I paying all this money to put myself through this? That's what I used to think a lot of. This is when a good bit of breathing can help. Nowadays, our smartwatches and phones have so many apps on them to help with mindfulness and breathing. So use one of those, or of course you don't have to. Sit back in your chair, take a few nice regular breaths. So inhale like normal, and then exhale nice and slowly, push all the air out of your lungs, and just do that on repeat, and feel, hopefully, your body start to relax, your heart rate to slow down. Because the thing is, just by breathing nice and steadily and calmly, you'll bring your heart rate down, you can reduce your blood pressure, and you can also reduce the stress hormone going through your blood. So it can have a massive effect on you. It can really help. It also kind of takes away from you overthinking about nerves. Don't know if you're like me, but I can just be so fixated on them because they're so overwhelming at times. I can't think of anything else. And actually, if I start to do some breathing and focus on that, it tends to let me forget about the nerves for a little bit, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're all good. So then moving on to focus. Warm-up ring, maybe it's not going to plan. Maybe you're feeling a bit stressed, the nerves have really kicked in, perhaps your horse is sensing it as well. Take yourself out of the warm-up ring. Only has to be for a minute or two, or to the side of a field, and just do some steady breathing. Calm yourself back down. Your body tends to get into that fight and flight mode when it's the heart rate increases and you're feeling really nervous. And sometimes you just need to tell your body to chill. You just need to say, hey, hang on a second, let's get some control back. Because like I say, nerves can really overwhelm you, and you can feel like you lose a bit of control. And that's when you lose the focus, because you're so fixated on what these nerves are doing to you, and you're worried about everything that's going on. So take some time, just get your breath back, calm the heart rate down, and then you can kind of reset, refocus, and think, right, what do I need to go and do in this warm-up ring to get the best results in the main ring? And sometimes all it needs is a couple of minutes of that, and you're sorted and you're back on track. And then also you've settled your horse down because you're no longer panicking. And then finally, performance. Obviously, all those things before are going to help your performance. But it's important to breathe when you're in the ring, whether you're doing a dressage test, whether you're doing a show jumping round. We hear it from trainers all the time. They're like, are you breathing? Because we do. We like to hold our breath. And when we hold our breath, that makes our body really tense. And then we can't be as effective when we're riding. So it's something to be aware of. Like when you're riding, am I breathing properly? Taking nice steady breaths, because remember, that's going to allow plenty of oxygen in, that's going to allow you to think quicker, that's going to allow your muscles to work better, and then, like I say, you're going to be so much more effective when riding and you'll be on your A game. So breathing's very important. Good breathing.
Next up is music. Studies have shown music can really help athletes just before they perform. Different types of music can help you get into the right zone and mood, maybe motivate or fire you up. It can also help divert nervous energy or anxious thoughts, so make yourself a good playlist. Distraction can be a great tool to help relieve the nerves, especially if you end up at a show all day long and you've got lots of time in between classes. Read a book, play a game on your phone, do a word search or Sudoku to give yourself something else to think about. So the technique that worked best for me and my nerves was visualization, and I actually learnt this from Charlie Unwin, who is a sports psychologist. I was lucky enough to have a session with him many moons ago, and it really did help me so much. It's simply having a rehearsal of your show day, but all done in your head. And I would do this the week before a competition, so I'd start prepping for that show by every night, spending 5 or 10 minutes, closing my eyes and just visualising how I wanted that day to go. And the more detail you could put in, the better. So from getting up, from getting my horse ready, platting, loading, driving to the venue, getting them off, making sure I was changed, making sure the horse was tacked up, all those little details that made up the show day. And then even more importantly, running through the warm-up routine and then your round, whether that be show jumping, cross country, dressage. And I would visualize in my warm-up how I wanted my horse to feel, how I wanted to feel. I'd be always doing this with a really confident, positive mindset, feeling like I was really excited to be at that show. And I'd be doing the stretching with my horse, I'd be doing lateral work, I'd be doing transitions, how I wanted that warm-up to go, how I wanted my horse to feel. And then, for example, because I do more dressage, how I'd work my horse around the outside of the dressage ring, the dressage test, every little movement of the dressage test, how I wanted it to play out, how I felt I should be riding, the confidence I would have. And the thing is, when you keep rehearsing it, you're kind of really starting to tell yourself that you can do this. You're reminding yourself how confident you are when you're competing, how positive you are, and it starts to install in you. It's very clever, but it does work. And it's also a great way to learn your dressage test. Now, if you're maybe an event rider and you don't know the venue you're going to, or you've never been there before, and you're thinking, well, how can I run through a cross-country course if I've never seen it before? You can't. You don't know what the course builder's going to build on the day, but you can at least look at pictures online. You can perhaps look at people's video clips on YouTube and kind of get an idea of the kind of jumps they use. There's cross-country course apps now where you can see the courses set out a day or so before. You may have to do it a little bit closer to the event, but you can visualize yourself jumping those fences before you even get to that event, how you want to feel jumping those cross-country fences, that kind of real positivity, that kind of getting the right stride and clearing that chicane or ditch or whatever it might be. But visualization can really help. Another good tip when it comes to dealing with the competition nerves is to make some really realistic and achievable goals before your competition. So often riders go to shows with one thing on their mind, and that is winning. Now, we can't all win every time we go to shows, so make other goals that hopefully you can work towards while you're there, so you don't just focus on getting placed. For example, maybe you want to work on your show jumping canter being better, more rhythmical. Maybe for the cross country you want to get closer to the optimum time. Maybe in a dressage test you just look at getting a slightly higher percentage, or maybe improving your medium trots within the test. Give yourself more achievable goals to work for at a show rather than just fully focusing on winning, because that doesn't help anyone. Another simple way to help with the nerves is just to talk about it. Chat with the people that come to shows with you, friends, family. Tell them how it makes you feel. Tell them that maybe it makes you a little more tetchy, talking from personal experience. Maybe it makes you not want to talk much. Maybe you might not look like you're enjoying yourself, but you really are. Talk to them about it. Sometimes just chatting about it can make it feel easier. And I certainly found that. I found that if I talked about how it made me feel, it sort of took away some of the pressure. Also, chat to your riding friends. Ask them, how do they cope with their nerves? How does it make them feel? You're most likely in the same boat as lots of others, so talking about it can really help. I think many riders forget to use positive language when they're at a competition. When you feel nervous, you tend to become quite negative. So you'll be constantly saying to yourself, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm ruining my horse, I can't see a stride, I'm going to forget my test, I'm going to have a stop at the ditch. All those sorts of things brings negative thoughts into yourself, and you're pretty much telling yourself you're not going to do something. Try and switch it up and always say that you can do something. I've also got another good tip, which is to write post-it notes with positive thoughts on and leave them in places like maybe where your hat is or where your riding jacket is, where others won't see but you'll come across them, and hopefully they'll give you a little boost and remind you to be confident and positive just before you get on your horse.
And finally, I think it can be really helpful to dig a little deeper for why you get nervous. Now, we normally give the same generic answer of, oh, it's just competition nerves, because I'm at a show, that's why I'm nervous. And it can be as simple as that. But more often than not, there are many other reasons for why we feel super nervous. Could be that you're really competitive, you like to win, and for that reason, that drives your nerves. Maybe you're the complete opposite. Maybe you're scared of falling off or getting hurt, and that makes you really nervous. Totally understandable. Pressure's a big one. Maybe you're feeling pressure from parents or owners, or maybe you're putting the pressure on yourself because you feel like you've got to deliver. I think for lots of young people, certainly teenagers, if their parents have invested a lot of time and money into them, they then put the pressure on top of themselves to deliver the results because it's like a give back. It's like you want to prove to your parents it was worth all the money they've spent. And same, sometimes you want to hold on to owners, so you feel like you've got to get those wins under your belt to be like, this is, I'm the best jockey for your horse. There's so many reasons why your nerves can be as bad as they are. And I think if you just start to understand them a little bit more, it can ease the pressure on yourself. And yeah, you might be able to work on them. You might be able to improve them. Anyway, I hope for anyone that's watching this, if you do suffer with really bad nerves, I promise these things do work. I've tried them on myself for many, many years, and they definitely help. And stick with it. I know there's times when the nerves just overcome you and you think, why am I doing this to myself? But you can make it better. You can feel more confident. You can release a bit of the pressure, and you can enjoy your sport.